Medieval Chronicles presents. You had heard the call of God, a promise of glory, forgiveness, and eternal salvation. But on the long road to Jerusalem, you would learn that dying for heaven felt nothing like a holy vision. It felt like your body breaking in the dust of a foreign land. Hollywood shows crusaders shining in sunlight, banners waving, swords raised in divine light. The truth was heat, disease, exhaustion, and fear. The truth was men dying not in glory but in silence, with flies gathering around their lips. When you joined the crusade, you imagined an army of brothers marching with purpose. But what you found was chaos. Thousands of men, peasants, and knights alike starving before they even saw the enemy. You would walk for months under a punishing sun, your armor cutting into your shoulders, your feet bleeding through rotting boots. Water was life, and death. You'd drink from stagnant puddles, thick with insects, and pray you wouldn't feel the fever that night. Many did, and by morning the road was lined with bodies, not fallen in battle, but taken by thirst and disease. You'd see men begging their comrades to finish them, delirious from infection. The crusade didn't stop for the dying. Their crosses still glimmered on their chests as the column moved on, leaving them to rot beneath the holy sun. When you joined the crusade, you imagined an army of brothers marching with purpose. But what you found was chaos. Thousands of men, peasants, and knights alike starving before they even saw the enemy. You would walk for months under a punishing sun, your armor cutting into your shoulders, your feet bleeding through rotting boots. Water was life, and death. You'd drink from stagnant puddles, thick with insects, and pray you wouldn't feel the fever that night. Many did, and by morning the road was lined with bodies, not fallen in battle, but taken by thirst and disease. You'd see men begging their comrades to finish them, delirious from infection. The crusade didn't stop for the dying. Their crosses still glimmered on their chests as the column moved on, leaving them to rot beneath the holy sun. But when battle finally came, it wasn't glorious. It was confusion wrapped in dust and screams. You'd hear the horns, the shouts in tongues you didn't understand, and the thunder of hooves closing fast. Then you'd feel the weight of your shield, the vibration of your own heartbeat echoing in your helmet. The first impact wasn't cinematic. It was chaos. A mass of men colliding with enough force to break ribs through armor. You'd lose your footing before even swinging your sword. A spear thrust would catch your side, and the pain would explode in your chest, sharp, blinding, immediate. If you fell, you would see nothing but legs, boots stomping, mud splashing, the blur of a banner passing overhead. You'd try to rise, but the armor would turn against you, heavy, suffocating, trapping you as the fight moved on. You wouldn't die from a single strike. You'd die slowly, under the press of bodies, unable to breathe. You'd hear men praying, screaming, choking in their own blood. And you'd realize that God was nowhere near the battlefield. You might think dying in battle was the worst fate. It wasn't. It was dying days later, rotting from within, feverish, hallucinating, calling for home that would never hear you. You'd feel your skin burning one moment and freezing the next. Your breath shallow, your body too weak to pray. And when you finally closed your eyes, your last vision wouldn't be heaven. It would be the endless desert stretching beyond your reach. Others died of hunger. You'd see men boil leather from their saddles, chew candle wax, gnaw at bones already picked clean. Every march turned into a grave procession. No music, no heroism, just the sound of wind through banners and the buzz. You'd see faith tested in ways no sermon could imagine. Men questioned God. Some tore the crosses from their tunics and burned them. Others prayed harder, convinced that their suffering meant salvation was near. But for most, faith dissolved under heat and hunger until only instinct remained. If you were lucky, if that word still meant anything, your death would come quick. A blade in the gut, a spear through the ribs, the mercy of a final breath. But most crusaders didn't die quickly. They wasted away, forgotten by commanders, buried in shallow graves that wind and dogs would soon uncover. Your name wouldn't be remembered, only the smell, only the flies, only the silence that follows when hope finally stops breathing. In truth, dying in a crusade felt less like sacrifice and more like surrender, not to God, but to exhaustion, to heat, to fear, to the limits of flesh and faith. The crusade promised eternal life. But all most men found was the slow collapse of their own bodies beneath the weight of devotion. And still, they marched, because to stop was to die anyway, because to turn back was to lose heaven itself, because sometimes belief is stronger than reason, and madness looks like faith from a distance. When you imagine a crusader's death, forget the shining armor and heroic last stands. Imagine instead a man alone, coughing in the dark, gripping a rusted sword, whispering a prayer that won't be answered. That was the truth of holy war, not glory, not salvation. Just men dying in foreign dust, chasing a promise that never came. This was how it truly felt to die in a crusade. Brutal, hopeless, human. If you want to know more of the Middle Ages, their saints, their warriors, and their silent tragedies, watch the other chronicles of our series. Because history was never as glorious as it was told.